do you ever like Google something and you're like, am I inventing this? And then you didn't because it's a thing. Cause I was like, is there like AA for dead? Yeah. And then there is. And I'm like, beautiful, I'll go. And it's free, you know, which was helpful, especially at the time. And
they make you pay for Debtors Anonymous. It's going to be a $10,000 loan. And 20% interest.
Right. So that's what I started getting into was the Debtors Anonymous. And that's actually the gateway to how, a reverse gateway of sorts, to how I got sober and how I stopped
a door that opens
up.
The other way.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It says push, but it's actually pull.
Welcome to Wolf Family Therapy. The doctors today are Jamie and Tyler, and the appointment will start briefly. Thank you for patiently waiting. The brothers will see you now.
Not to be like my therapist is better than yours, but like, okay, if that's what I'm implying, I'm fine for it.
It is definitely better.
I really, really like my therapist. And so my wife and I had a couples therapist that I do know what you mean, because we had a Zoom or whatever, Doxy telehealth, whatever they use, that's like better than Zoom or different from Zoom. And she would drift. And also one time our couples therapist did vomit on the Zoom.
What?
Yes.
Vomited?
So, she vomited. And I wonder...
From what you were saying?
I don't think so. But it was like she turned off the camera part, but not the audio. And we heard the vomiting. And I think my guess is... And this, of course, I have like an entire narrative around it.
Yes.
We didn't like her as a therapist that much to begin with.
Separate
like,
to the vomiting before this vomiting.
We were like, okay. Because the thing about couples therapy...
You were turning to your wife, you're like, I don't know why I feel like she would like vomit in front of us. I get like that vibe, and then she did. You're like, I told you.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. And then we talked about it in therapy. And but
to a third therapist.
Correct. Well, we've had a couple of couples therapists, because here's the thing, is like my wife and I have what I think is a pretty good relationship. Like, we're not perfect, but I don't know, like we've both had other relationships. I'm 43, my wife is 41. We've been through it. Like, my wife's divorced, I was engaged. Like, we dated people and then we came together later and really knew what we wanted. And we're good at talking. Like, we don't fight in a way that makes me feel unseen or unheard or whatever. And like, we've had relationships where we've done that. Yes. Tell me.
Did you ever have a couples therapist before your wife?
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I broke off an engagement in couples therapy in my life.
In the middle of couples therapy?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa, can you tell this story? That's so interesting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, so I was engaged to a therapist, not that therapist and not my therapist.
Hold on.
I guess she
what?
was.
How many therapists are
You're kind of the perfect guest for this podcast. We're just going to talk about therapy the whole time.
Sure, a meta episode. But, okay, so I dated and was then engaged to a woman whose job was as a therapist. At the time, she was seeing mostly children and me. But whatever, like, yeah.
Seeing you romantically, not
the children.
Therapy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not for therapy.
That was phrased. You were like, at the time she was seeing children and me.
For different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, the thing was, like, she wasn't gay. Except for me. So, and one of the first jokes that I ever wrote was that my type is a straight girl looking for a reason to break up with her boyfriend, which arose from that relationship because she was dating this guy who, by the way, like, I never got over that. Like, it's like, I know that this is a thing for gay people. Like, when you've dated a straight person and they're in it for you, it's like simultaneously flattering and made me the most insecure of anything in my life, because I was like, well, do you think he's hot or he's or whatever? And also, she broke up with her ex-boyfriend and he is a musician, which meant that he would like release songs and stuff. And like, if he put out a YouTube video with a song, I was the first few, like 100% without an alert. Because no, I would never subscribe because then he would know.
Oh,
like, can I tell you? He wrote songs for my ex, like when they were together, and they were on the songs were on her computer, and when she would leave the apartment, I was like,
delete.
No, because I'm like, oh my God, this is my favorite song. And it's like still an as yet unreleased hit, in my opinion, because now he's like, has a career, like he's a musician, whatever. And his songs are good, but I'm sitting at home being like, I like the old stuff. Like I like
the more personal stuff.
Yeah, I like the secret love song. Yeah, exactly. But I remember it was this song about how it was snowing, because their relationship was that like they dated and she was going to move to be with some other guy, okay, from her past, who was Jewish, and this guy wasn't Jewish. And then this guy,
you know a song about this?
Well, he wrote a song begging her to stay. Okay. He wrote 3 songs. It was like an EP, basically. Right. And but it was this wonderful song because they were in Chicago. She was going to move to DC. And so it was like this song where, oh my God, I wonder if I could sing it. It's like,
I'm just a goy and life isn't.
I don't know. It's like, it was about it's snowing. And how, like, he was projecting into the future of, like, as soon as it starts snowing, thinking you were right. Something about him being right, and he says fucking right in the song at one point.
Wow.
And it's just so powerful. And I would, like she would be like, I'm going out. And I'm like, great. And, like, press play on the laptop.
So you were kind of a fan of her ex's music.
Yeah, my ex-fiance's ex-boyfriend.
And now he's a successful musician.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Like, I'm not saying he's, like, on every radio station. This is falling off. I have to do that because it's just
it's Adam Levine.
No, he's
it was
like,
his song. It was like
She Will Be Loved or something like that.
Yeah.
Sunday morning. It was about like
I
they're
love
together
that
on a
song.
Sunday morning.
Right.
It's such a good song.
It's such a good song.
Yeah.
I like to play it on Sunday mornings. But
Me
anyway,
too.
You do?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Sunday
nice.
morning, rain is falling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Steal some covers, share some skin. Life is. I sing the whole song. Yeah. You guys slowly get less and less enthusiastic.
No. I just don't know the words. I don't know the words, all of them.
All right.
So yeah, no, it's great. I wish that you knew all of his songs. The other guy.
Yeah.
I wanted. Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have some albums out that are good, but I feel like it's a little more of a produced sound. And I'm
You like the raw?
I like the raw.
Yeah, you
I
like
really
the nasty
do.
version.
Well, he moved to Texas,
and you can't tell him this,
correct?
Because it was secretly on her laptop.
Yes, 100%.
So you can't be like, your old sound was so good.
Right. Well, and also
That's
it's
what
like
makes you a star.
there was a version of that where I think I may have sent him an email once. I used to be like less therapized.
Were you threatened by him?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you also like the music.
Also
Okay.
100%.
All right.
Threatened by him, not physically to.
No.
Okay. You were threatened by
just like
Their
him as an idea in the relationship.
Yeah. Well, because I just was like, okay, like, and her perspective was like, I broke up with him for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, but I don't trust it. And that's
Yeah,
just about me not being ready to, I mean, I was going to say accept love, but like, it was a messed up thing from the beginning. Like, it's like somebody's cheating to like leave someone for you. I don't think it's going to work out. You know, yeah. And this was over 10 years ago. This is all like very whatever. But so we break up in couples therapy because then we get engaged. We're doing it, right? And like we were a terrible match. It was a lot of like very sitcom relationship energy, like where I was the husband, you know, and I'm just like, why are you always mad at me? Like, what did I do? And it honestly, like, I mean, I feel for husbands and men in relationships because of that. Like, because of that. yeah. Well, I mean, just the
It's
whole
about time someone spoke up for us.
isn't it? Like, I feel like I would be an excellent men's rights activist, actually. 'Cause you don't see it coming, you know? But
That's
meanwhile,
true, a lesbian woman.
yeah, like I have nothing to gain from it. But I do have a lot of friends who are men, who are straight men, you know, not exclusively, but like that's definitely like a thing. Like I've been to bachelor parties.
Yeah, and you're
you know?
in comedy, and there's a lot of straight men in comedy.
Exactly. So, but I do think, because I'm just like, what? I really had that thought in that relationship. I'm like, I get that this is like a vibe that you maybe are going to create regardless of who you're in a relationship with, but like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Yeah.
I don't get it, you know? And not to say like I was a perfect specimen in the relationship. I'm not suggesting that at all. But also there was like this thing where I was like, I don't get this at all.
It seems unrelated to you and your actions.
Right.
Seems about something
Some
else.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we were engaged and she was like very like with the wedding, like it was a lot of planning the wedding, like a lot.
How quick to get engaged? Were you together for a long time?
We were together total 2.5 years. So I think it was like 1.5 years in that.
But you're 30.
Yeah. I mean,
at this
I was
time, so it's not that
right.
fast.
Like I don't remember 31-ish,
So
something
it's
like that.
Pretty normal timeline if you're.
And you keep describing her as straight. Is she back with men?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't keep up with her because I went
That makes
to,
sense.
right. Well, no, because I used to be a horrific like ex, not stalker literally like the legal definition, but enough to look up the legal definition and know that I didn't meet it. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. You caught yourself at one moment. You're like, wait a second.
Right.
Is this
like,
allowed?
let's look at the penal code for this.
And to be fair, if you're Googling, am I a stalker?
Correct.
You probably have enough self-awareness not to be one.
Fair.
Yeah,
fair.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
I think that's also fair. But like I would do a lot of the like ex looking up online.
Oh, yeah.
And also of this musician
You
guy.
in the bushes of her house. Am I a stalker? Oh, legally I'm fine.
Right.
You keep looking in through the window.
Yeah, pick up the binocular. Oh no, this is fine. but yeah, I would look up like exes and things like that, and I realized it was making me really unhappy.
Yeah.
And I actually went to a Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous meeting. I'm not like pointing at you.
Yeah. You're like, you know, I saw you there. Remember?
Right.
That's how we met.
No.
You were talking about masturbating with, what was it again? What was it again? Pacifiers? But anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. But so I started going to that and then stopped like looking up exes online. And so I don't have any idea what she's doing.
I've stopped doing this, but a thing that I used to do when I was younger was, curious if you did this, was go back to old texts or like messages and just scroll as many years back as you could go and then just like reread the relationship.
I've done that. Yeah.
Me too. 100%.
It's so psychologically fucked up.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
It is. But there's almost like this joy in the sadness of that, I think.
Of like, that's when it was good or whatever. What
because you can relive the feeling. I remember that I was with, this is another relationship pre my wife, I guess, obviously, but like, this is about my side chick, but no, I'm kidding. But
anyway, she's in the car right now.
Yeah. So, but I dated this woman and we had like rounds. And so in between a breakup and another round,
there were cycles. Like,
yeah, I would go into our text message window to see if her 3 dots would appear at any random
given
moment.
time.
Yeah. So I feel like that's another slightly different, but like, yeah.
And it's not legally, by the way, if any cops are listening, that's not legally stalking.
Correct.
It's strange, but it's not.
It's weird.
It's not normally done.
Right.
However, it's you cannot be charged with a crime for doing it.
Correct. Maybe a misdemeanor, but
I remember one time I told a friend who maybe was like either healthy or mentally or just in their relationship. And I was like, you ever like go back like, just a year and just reread everything? They're like, you need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
not be doing that.
I mean, I think it is true. And also at the time, so I've gone into like a lot of programs. I'm not like a program guy necessarily, meaning like I'm sober, but I'm not like, I love AA or whatever. I think it's fine. I think it's like helpful. And one of my friends was reframing it for me in what I found to be a helpful way, which was she's like, it's like a class. Like you can go to a yoga class and figure out how to stretch better. Similarly, you can go to a meeting and feel like this is how to handle my relationship better. This is how to handle my money better or drug use or whatever.
It was sex, love, and what was the third thing?
Well, I guess it could be relationships, but the initialism is just Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous.
Gotcha.
So SLAA. But I went into that because I was in Debtors Anonymous because I used to have a thing where I would get into amounts of debt that were a lot, but also that could be paid off through some heroic effort on my part. Like sort of like I would get into just, I don't mind talking numbers. And so it was like at some point I was in $50,000 of debt, but I also could sell a condo. Yes. Credit card. I could sell my condo that I sort of wanted to sell and make about that much money and pay off. And so it's kind of like, I think in some sub or unconscious way, I kind of knew that was possible. And I wasn't going to be
like,
almost
like willing to see it to that point, and then it gets like but it was far like, gone. And like, okay, now I need to do this to take care of it.
Yes.
So that's like a form of addiction? Is that how it's treated, at least in these meetings?
Yeah. And I did the thing where, do you ever like Google something and you're like, am I inventing this? And then you didn't because it's a thing. Because I was like, is there like AA for debt?
Yeah.
And then there is. And I'm like, beautiful. I'll go. And it's free, which was helpful, especially at the time. And
they make you pay for debtors. It's going to be a $10,000 loan and 20% interest.
Right. So that's what I started getting into was the Debtors Anonymous. And that's actually the gateway to how, a reverse gateway of sorts, to how I got sober and how I stopped
a door that opens the other way.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It says push, but it's actually pull. But and then that's when I stopped looking up not only exes, but also my exes' exes and their new music, which is great.
I feel like it's so you do still, you follow them, but you're not.
Once he's like releasing it on Spotify.
That's fine. That's not weird.
And my wife is like,
if you like the music.
Honestly, I love the songs.
Oh,
you know, like, cause he had like a cool sound. He has a great voice, but also it's like, it's not just about the voice. It's the same as comedy. It's like, yeah, you can be funny, but like, you got to figure out how to like
all the other
land
things around
it. And right. Exactly. And so anyway, so he moved to Texas and his first album, in my opinion, has some good songs, but some of the hits, I was like, you Texased it. And it kind of sounds more country,
you went a little country with
which
it.
Is fine. I don't care. Like I can get into country, whatever, if it's your authentic sound.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where it is like comedy, because then it's like, okay, but you sound like you're imitating whatever.
Right.
But then his next album
was beautiful.
Really good. Yeah. And I'm not going to say his name, but the album.
It's Adam Levine.
And I do read his text messages. No, I'm kidding. But because wasn't there a thing with like Adam and his text messages?
There was.
Yeah,
right.
like,
I'm
totally
like, I don't know pop culture, but I'm going to just slide this and see if it works. Thank you. So I still feel bad about not knowing the lyrics to Sunday Morning. I'm never not going to feel bad. I'm going to call you Sunday morning singing. Just to be like, here, Jamie, I did this.
That'd be a great way to wake up.
Oh,
hard
really?
to explain to my girlfriend.
I'm not threatening to girlfriends. I don't think.
You just said you stole.
No, you're threatening to boyfriend.
To your girlfriend.
You're threatening to boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. We were friends. That was the thing that was like really messed up.
You and the guy?
Kind of. Because
is that how you met her?
No.
Okay.
I met her through her. Like friends of mine were friends of hers. But then there was a time with some overlap that did include a New Year's Eve where we both were present.
You're like, this guy's talented and kind.
He honestly is.
So you met her and she's in a relationship with a man.
Yeah.
At what point do you kind of like have an internal like awareness?
The second we met, because she was
making out with me and I was like, this girl might be into me.
I mean, you're not far off.
Really?
Yeah. And so it was the kind of thing, and I've had this before, like less now because I'm married and probably older is like probably why. But like when I was in my 20s and 30s and like straight girls, like I looked like this, and I think I looked a way that like if you maybe want to try women, you're coming here first. Like this is the first stop. Come on. And I think it happens. I mean, there's like storylines on the L Word about it. Like I'm not like making any inroads into storytelling by having this version of my life, but like it happened. And so we met and she's like telling all her friends, like, what if I think she's cute? Like, what if I, so we knew at that time.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty
and immediate. I think like from my perspective, I still found that kind of thing exciting. I mean, I wouldn't now. Like
like turning someone?
No. I mean, well, it's just like sometimes like I got a letter, an email, not like a telegram.
Someone found my address. They're a stalker.
Right. Like, legally. And it was like, it was the kind of fan something or another that I'm like, I feel like you're insulting me and hitting on me. And I didn't know what to make of it. And I sent it to a friend and the friend was like, oh, this person just wants you to like hook up with her. And I forgot that like would be a thing. I'm just like, do you have a question about like what, like, cause she's like, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna, not that like I won't, but I'm just, I don't know that it connects 100% as a story. Sorry, my foot fell asleep. Okay. So
I think it's interesting that your ex dated a musician and a comedian. Yeah. So if you could kind of learn a lot about her life by looking at his discography and like your jokes. I don't think that many other people probably have that.
I think, that's fair. So his newer stuff, I think he really has come into his own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. And then I feel like to button up the sex and love thing and the deading. So I went to Debtors and then I had a breakup during when I started Debtors Anonymous, was talking about that breakup with a deading friend
who was in
Debtors. And then she said to me, she's like, based on how you're talking about this breakup, it sounds like you're in withdrawal, was what she used. Because that's like a term that they use. Because it's all borrowed language from like drugs and alcohol. Yeah. Which reminds me of your joke, about like being addicted to other things, not drugs, which is such a great joke. You know what I'm talking about,
like
right?
Like the pretzels one, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But it's like, and I think you're right. And also that's like the program way is they just borrow all the language. So anyway, so she's like, you're in withdrawal. I was like, okay, I'm open to it. Come to this meeting, the same place, like at the Y or whatever, Tuesday night. I was like, fine. I go to the Tuesday night meeting. That was where somebody in their share at that Tuesday night meeting of Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous was talking about Instagram stalking. And I was like, I didn't realize, because the thing is like with those meetings, it's like,
and you were like, but legally you shouldn't be using that term.
Right. But so
I'm gonna butt in here.
It's called Instagram research.
Correct. Yeah.
Instagram research.
I feel that way.
Yeah, it's Oppo research.
Right. So, but it was eye-opening for me because to me, I felt like that was a necessary form of pain that I had to put myself through if I was going through a breakup. And listening to this woman talk about how that was one of her, I think they call them bottom line behaviors that you just like X out of your life. And she was like, so that's one of mine. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I stopped. So any ex, like that ex from that time, the ex from couples therapy, when we broke up, I froze in time as of whenever that day was, like 2016 or whatever. The end of the couples therapy, like breakup story was really, she's going on and on and on about like all the wedding stuff. And I was like, not as into the planning of the wedding. Like I was into it, but I'm like, come on, you know, like why does this matter?
Which is a good, that's again, sitcom husband.
Yeah, exactly. And I, you know, so it's like, you have to call this person, you have to do this or whatever. And I was like, okay, fine.
If it was a sitcom, she'd be like, what kind of flowers do we want? Why don't we just put tires on the tables? I
and
like
that
man
is what
stuff.
I said. What are we serving? Beer.
What do you think about this venue? Why not a tailgate outside the stadium?
I mean, it's probably not far off. Because the thing is, when you then are cast in that role, you're like, fine. I guess I will.
That is true.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's on a mountain, and we have a TV so I can watch the game during the ceremony.
And you just hear,
Yeah.
oh, look, it's our neighbor.
Yeah. That's amazing. So that, and anyway, I don't remember exactly the thing, but it was like that conversation was escalating to a point that then I think she said something like, well, do you even want to get married? And then I was like,
no way. And then
no.
Whoa.
And that was how.
And had you had the realization before that moment that you didn't want to?
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I think I had a dinner with my high school friends who are my friends, like my core whatever group. Not just like I need to fly in specifically high school friends for this purpose.
Sitcom husband behavior. The boys are coming to town. Don't disturb us. We're going out to the old bar.
Wait, but we were supposed to have date night. Why can't we bring Jerry and Donald? And they just start walking in with suitcases and opening it up in the middle.
Both going through divorces.
100%. So they all were like, we have known that this is not a good fit for a long time. And, you know, I mean, I can't imagine that it was a huge surprise, you know, just because we fought all the time. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's like at the time I was like, okay, well, maybe it's me because it seems like that's the narrative.
Right.
And I mean, I am different because of therapy and also life and whatever. And so I'm not saying like I was perfect and whatever at the time, but also I was like, I don't think I need to fight this much. Like, I don't think that's like what has to be a part of a relationship. And I hope, by the way, that she in her relationship now doesn't fight like we did. And also, by the way, and I really hope for the guy with the songs that he found. I mean, okay, my stalking, not legally, did extend not only to him.
My legal following. More than 50 paces.
Right.
More than 50 paces.
Not only to her ex-boyfriend, but he started dating a woman and married her. And she started a blog. And the blog was like not for general consumption at all. Like,
but you found it.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, like she was
broke
clearly
into her computer.
Well, this isn't even creepy. This is so far removed, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Because he's your ex's ex.
Correct.
It's like barely.
There's no us.
This is your ex's ex.
Ziz wife. Current wife.
So it's like, it's just really just reading a stranger's gossip and drama.
Yeah. Totally. And so, and she, you know, you could tell like she's a smart woman and good writer. And I was like rooting for him and their marriage because I felt like I broke up his last relationship.
Oh, right.
And so, you know, because his first album, which was Texasified, was a lot of the breakup songs from that breakup. From the breakup of me and my ex, or of him,
the one
and
that
my
you
ex,
essentially
correct.
caused,
right?
Yeah.
And he had there's this really good song, and again, I do like the original version better, which was like from a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, this is like so raw, because I remember there was a line in it which was
I hate it when a woman leaves me for a woman.
Liz Glazer. How could you?
No, it was like, and I'm crying on the frozen bathroom tiles,
Ooh.
which was a good one. And also there was like something about their sex life, which was like so specific that it was gorgeous. It was like once a month with our t-shirts on, that's how far our love has gone. And I was like,
Wow.
right?
Whoa.
Wow.
Like that's like really specific.
That's a really good line.
It's a really good line. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he's very good.
Yeah, that's really good.
He's good. And so it's not like I was just supporting his career for nepotism or whatever you would call it. It's not nepotism. Like, what would you call...
I don't think there's a word for that.
I think I should... If there ever is going to be one, I've got to create it.
Exotism?
Right.
Exotism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my dream.
But that also sounds like if that line was about both of your ex, that the girl who was both of your exes, sounds like a good thing you broke it up.
Well, yeah, I suppose. And she had told me some of the stuff connected to their breakup, not like that 100%, but like where I was like, oh, wow, he really encapsulated that moment of their relationship in a really artistic, beautiful way. Yeah, but yeah, and I guess, yeah.
So part of the following him and his career and his now wife's blog was almost like a trying to rid yourself of some guilt.
Probably, but
just
also
like, I want to make sure it worked out.
I think that's a generous way to describe it. I think mostly it was just like anxiety channeled into like, what's a useless thing, like rabbit hole that I can find myself in. And there's updates. Then so they have kids. And I mean, my wife is pregnant now.
How far does your interest extend? So her kid's girlfriend's cousin,
Their names are Katie and
actually a
Jaden.
very talented gymnast.
She's ranked in the state of Texas right now.
Putting the kids through college and attending the gymnastics meets.
We're hoping she goes to Oregon State, but she wants to go a little bit smaller.
The coaching there is not a fit for her, but she insists, and you can't make kids.
You can't.
You have to let them make their own mistakes. Again, this is my ex's wife's child's girlfriend's cousin.
Yes, exactly. So my wife is pregnant now, which is exciting.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's somebody
So you
else's
can
baby.
focus on your own kid.
Yeah. But what do you call it?
You to your wife, when it comes out, I'm not taking care of it. Sundays are still poker. You're still the sitcom house.
Yeah. But the reason I was saying about the kids is like, I was interested in the kids, but then it was a lot of kid stuff. And at some point I dipped out, and I went to Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, but I'm like, I'm not reading her blog about like whatever the kids did.
Pretty. Yeah.
Mostly for...
That's probably healthy.
Yeah. I love that I just like got bored and left. And that was ultimately why, but whatever. But anyway, so the program was like, this woman was sharing about stalking online, and that was how I stopped, because she was talking about that, and I was like, oh, I guess I could stop.
Did you have that with like every ex, like going back to your
it was
first?
like rounds, like a doctor going into the hospital. Like, it's just like, check on this person.
Go through all of the...
Oh, you would go through all... It wasn't like you'd like break up with this and you'd think about them until you're with the next person?
Yeah, no, it was just like...
Have you read High Fidelity, the book?
No.
No? It's about exactly that.
Oh,
it's about exactly what you're describing, which is... It's a guy who's like...
Oh, I guess that makes sense of the title then. Huh. Okay.
Yeah. He's like thinking of marrying this woman.
Right.
But he doesn't... He's like, I don't know, I feel like I'm settling. And then he goes back through all of his exes.
Oh,
like one by one. There's like 6 of them in the book.
Right.
It's a really, really good book.
Okay.
But it's the exact thing you're describing. And legally... can't be described as a crime or even a misdemeanor.
Right. And I love that it sounds like, from the way you've described the book, that he had a purpose for why. I don't know that I did exactly. Like, it's not like I was trying to figure out.
He didn't have a purpose in the book. He was just doing literally exactly what you're describing.
Well, but you said that like because he wanted to see if the current relationship was like better?
Well, so it starts by they break up.
Okay. Right.
And then he starts to go through all his relationships in a similar manner. Not like, how does this relate to the current one, but why did I break up with her? Why did I break up with her? Why did I break up with her? Back.
Interesting.
All the way circles back to the current one in the end.
And is he doing it through Instagram?
Yeah, it's mostly descriptions of Instagram pictures, the book.
Got it.
It's not a good book.
Okay. But I would love it.
He, weirdly enough, so he didn't stalk his ex's wife's.
Yeah. Right. He stopped at a certain level.
He did stop at a certain level. No,
right.
But it was it's the same thing. It's a really good book.
Okay.
I think,
cool.
Yeah, you might
I'll
relate
read
to it a lot. I love the book. It's a really good book.
Nice.
It
Thank
talks
you.
about exes in a way that a lot of books don't, and even pop culture. I feel they oversimplify what an ex is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's always like there's
Olivia
memes.
Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo, or like memes of like, just saw my ex in an alley. It's like a dumpster on fire.
Right.
You know,
And
you're like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a
I
little
feel
bit
like you shared like
oversimplifying it.
years of your life with this person.
Totally.
And there's like nostalgia, and it's not all bad, and it's a more complex thing than you're projecting.
I think 100%.
Did you just say you don't even at this point know why you were doing it? I feel like for me it was like an insecurity. And I was like, what happened? What did I do wrong? Like let me relive that.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it boiled down to something that I could crystallize with that layer of like purpose, you know? Like I'm just like, and that's the thing is like, because I was checking so often, it was like, oh, well, I got to see if there's something new, you know? And I am a good researcher, for better or worse. Clearly. And so it's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like again, for better or worse, I'm really responsive. Like you text me, I will text you right back. And like, I'm not ashamed. I'm not too cool for it, whatever. And maybe it's, I don't know. I just think I've always been that way where it's like, you need me, I will be there. Like emergency response time frames. And so I think as a result of that, there's like the other side that's bad is like, I'm, you know, I know when you posted or whatever.
What was the first like heartbreak, and what are their kids up to now?
That's an adorable question. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like in terms of heartbreak, I do know, and I have no idea. Because so I dated a woman, and dated is strong. I snuck around our parents' house with a girl when I was also a girl who was straight. Like, so we had sex for the first time after being friends for a long time. And I had a crush on her.
This is like high school?
Yeah. I had a crush on her the whole time. And although I think it was college that we actually like did it. But then we go to a diner, okay? Like she was living in the city at the time. We go to like around the corner a diner. And after we were like just together until like 5 a.m. or whatever it was, she's like, my husband will never know about this. And she was single at the time. She was just like...
I was like...
projecting into the future.
Yeah. And so that was like probably...
That's kind of
first.
Fucked up.
Yeah. And then
that same night she said that later?
Yeah. Like, like a half hour later. And so, but the thing is like, so I went to Orthodox Jewish day school for high school.
So it's
religious too.
Yeah.
And so me being gay, I mean, it was like weirder when I was growing up than now when like everybody's gay. But like, and I don't know about in, you know, Orthodox Jewish day schools or what it is there, but whatever. But yeah, like she was like, I will marry a guy who probably somebody will set me up with. And I believe that that's what happened with her life. And I'm pretty sure she has kids and like lives kind of around where we grew up. But I was just thinking about her over the weekend because I was taking a walk with my same high school friends, and we go into
Donnie and the boys.
Exactly.
We were going into the game. And
Right. Well, where we actually went was an arboretum, which is like a walking distance from where we grew up. And we had friends with us who didn't grow up exactly where we did. So they were like, oh, that's pretty. What is it? And so my friend Shira and I were like, oh, that's the Arboretum. And I'm like, where insert this girl's name? And I got caught making out in the gazebo by the police after the Arboretum was closed. And so like that was our relationship, was like, we were both living at our parents' house.
Right.
Nobody would have been fine with us being gay. And, you know,
nobody would have been okay with it? Is that what you said?
They all would have disapproved.
Yeah. And my parents did disapprove before coming around, you know, because I was like, no, I'm like actually gay.
When did you come out to them?
When I was 21 or 2. I was in law school already. Yeah, so it was later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they didn't accept it when you said that?
No, not at all. It was like, because they were just like, there was an element that was confusing because I went to Orthodox Jewish day school, but my parents at home were far less observant than what we learned in school.
Right.
So it was kind of like, go to school so you know what we're doing wrong at home, you know, like that.
You tell us.
Right. And
we're embarrassed.
if you tell us, we're going to be like, what are you listening to them for? So it was just like gaslighting so much, but it was fine. And I say that because like I can understand that messing someone up, right? Like, because I'm about to have kids, hopefully. And like, when I think of raising my kids, I would want there maybe to be some consistency between, for example, what school says and what we do at home. Yeah. I can understand that. My parents, for some reason, were like,
that is so weird.
Like, but I respect them for it. Like, it's kind of rock star.
Like, you listen to those fucking chumps?
Right. And I was like,
your dad eating bacon like it's grapes.
100%. Literally, Jamie, because we learned, okay, you don't go out on Shabbat, you don't eat non-kosher, whatever. And we would have pepperoni pizza on Friday night.
Friday night.
Yeah. And
it's pepperoni day.
Don't tell anyone at school.
That's so weird.
It was weird.
Yeah, that's kind of a trip for a kid.
Yeah. But like, I think despite it being perhaps not something I would repeat literally for my own family, hopefully, but it is something that I think helped me understand. Like, I think it is a little bit the way that why I am some of the way that I am, because being a kind of insider outsider, you know, is the perspective where I was like, okay, this is what they do. This is what we do at home. Those are different. I can appreciate that people do different stuff, you know, but the reason I brought that up is because the gay thing, somehow my parents were like, oh, right, but school's right about that. And I was like,
so weird.
You're like,
what? I'm just dating bacon. Like, what's the difference? You know? So
how come dad can have bacon, but I can't?
Right. So anyway, that was a real heartbreak, because that was somebody who I really
were you bringing this like duality into school? Because you know how sometimes kids come into the school and they're like, well, actually, my mom said this.
No,
but you were just like, I'm not going to talk about it.
I got that it was like this is different, but I think that that's like how I've always been. Like, my parents fought quite a bit when I was younger, and I listened to it, and I think that's probably like how I was, to the extent that I was good at being a lawyer and like law school, like sort of like, okay, well, mommy has these points and daddy has these points. And then, you know, there was a lot of like, well, you said, and I'm like, actually, the transcript doesn't reflect that, you know, like, cause I'm sitting in my room, not being able to do my homework, listening to this thing.
Yeah.
And they would have like really intense Oscar winner fights, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, nobody got physical, thankfully, but it was like a lot of intense emotion.
Like top
yelling.
of the
ones,
yeah.
Oh man.
A lot of yelling.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
yeah. So that was, you know, just, I don't know. I guess like I've always been aware that there is intense disagreement and that that's just like a part of life. And so when things didn't line up, I don't think I was ever confused. You know, like, this works differently from that. Yeah, everything is like that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. There's an innate conflict is innate. It's not something to shy away from. It's there always.
Yeah.
And that probably translates to stand up pretty. Were you like good quickly?
No.
Okay.
Arguably not yet. But I think that So the way that I think it translates to stand up, I wonder about that. I think it's probably one of the reasons I have like taken, I think, somewhat longer in a way to get at something, like, because I don't know that I have like, I want to rant about being right about this.
Yeah.
I don't have that exactly.
Yeah.
I find a way into humor to the extent that I do, I think, based on like what happened to me, how might it translate to something funny as a way of relief from conflict and fighting.
More like a Richard Pryor than Carlin, right?
Yeah,
I think to put it in fair.
Like more
Yeah.
biographical than just like
Yeah. I think, and I don't mean it like, I'm always very wary of. I think because of how I got into comedy, which was, and I only say this not by way of like bragging at all, but just like I had a tenured job. And I had like a really prestigious tenured job. And then I left. And when I left that job, but I think I also left trying to rack up achievements as a way of living. Mm-hmm. And so whenever there's any kind of like discussion of like, oh, I want to be good, I want to excel, like I want to, but only so that I express some kernel of truth from my life in a way that is resonant for other people. Like if I could write a lyric like my ex-fiance's ex-boyfriend that would touch an ex's ex of mine, I think that that's success for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that is a legal definition of stalking, I think, if that's your career goal. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, it's like reverse stalking. You're like, I want to be so big that they stalk me.
Sure. And I don't. But I think that I think that's true in terms of how it has affected stand-up. Like, does that answer?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, it's not as, because I think a lot of comics, I feel there's a couple different groups of comics, but the biggest two groups are comics that treat it like a sport and comics that treat it like an art.
Yeah.
And like the art comics are focused on connection.
Yeah.
And like expression.
Yeah.
And then the sports comics are focused on like getting the like funniest, hardest kill.
Yeah.
And like the most followers in the biggest rooms.
Sure.
And it's like just a separate pursuit.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and also like they're obsessed with like ranking comedians. They're like, this guy's the GOAT or she's the GOAT.
Sure.
And then the art comics are like, I liked that special. Like I liked that piece of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine also as you're saying it, there's like ways in which they are the same person sometimes. And, and it's like, even though, I'd probably put myself more in the art camp, I also have to work so hard to stop the sports part of me. Yeah. Right. Well, first of all, I'm a sitcom husband and we know that they like sports. And secondly, like, because I was so obsessed, especially in my first career, with like achievements. I mean, because, first of all, getting the job that I had, that was no small feat. Like when I interviewed for the job, my recommenders for the job, for me to get the job, they were like, "You're never gonna get it," because like,
we'll
it's just
do this for you, but 100%. We don't think you're
literally like you're playing with the house's money. Have fun.
Really?
Yes, because it's like getting a tenured job as a law professor is like some 0.01 whatever % of the market that applies for the job to get the job. And like the day that I announced my retirement, I had emails that were like, hey, do you know if they're hiring? Like, it's like so cutthroat. And so to me, because we always see things as we are, and in light of our own experiences, like I look at comedy and I'm like, this is just legal academia.
Yeah.
And of course that's my lens.
Oh, interesting.
But it's like, oh, this table at this comedy club is like the same as, right?
What club? What table?
But it's like, it's such a thing, and
totally. Well, isn't that annoying? Is like, to me at least, comedy is like supposed to be this art form of expression, especially for outsiders in society. Like that's historically what it's been.
Right.
It's like Jews and black people and women, and in terms of like what comedy is expressing that isn't being expressed elsewhere.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And now it's just become literally another industry.
Yeah.
Like a law professor in academia or like a firm on Wall Street. Like it's the exact same hierarchy and also nepotism.
Yeah.
And focus on like the social game of it rather than the thing itself.
It is, though. It's very much that. And I think they're very similar. Again, I recognize that it's because I lived both. But I do, because it's like in legal academia, like if you're a law professor, really you're like, I want to write an article that's brilliant. And then there are some law professors who every other professor is like, well, he's the most brilliant. And it's like inevitably the guy in the corner eating salad with his hands, like with dressing on it. And like, it's like, oh no, he's amazing. And it's like, okay, because he wrote some brilliant whatever 30 years ago.
Yes,
and then it's like, being a comics comic versus like changing the world. Because there's a lot of law professors who then get appointed to the government or have like other jobs as like special counsel for some fancy law firm. And then it's like, is that better than writing a brilliant whatever? Right?
Yeah, he's really fallen off since his first deposition.
Right. But it's but it's similar to comedy because it's like, then it's like, okay, like if somebody is like really good at a club that's like very exclusive, but they're otherwise not many other places, then it's like, is that the best comic? Some people might say so. It's a similar kind of game of ego, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a game of weirdly, a lot of the times it's divorced from like the work itself, I feel.
Yeah.
And you're just going, oh, everyone respects this guy. And then you read his legal dissertation and you're like, this is stupid. But then you meet him and he's very likable and charismatic and you're like, oh, I kind of get it. Like people just like the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say the only difference is that like you can't get huge as a lawyer just like by posting online, but I've actually now seen that of people I've literally seen people like, did you know that if you do this at an airline, you can get all your money back and still take the same flight? Make sure to follow I think it's like Erica the something lawyer.
I think that's true. And
I'm not joking. This is
lawyer TikTok.
10 million followers.
Right.
It's just legal loopholes.
But I think there's lawyer versus law professor. And there are law professors who have ascended to like actual fame. Like I remember this was when I was still teaching, but there was a guy, Kenji Yoshino, who's a professor at NYU Law School. Great job. Right. And he wrote an article that turned into a book. The book was published by Random House, got picked up by the New York Times Magazine, and his face, because of his book in 2006, was on the cover of the New York Times Magazine. Yeah. And then, of course, there's like, I don't know the specifics of people, but I remember people like other law professors I knew being like, it's a sexy idea, but it's not like rigorous legal research because it's the same. It's the same like comedy. It's like, oh yeah, everybody loves this special, but like the joke writing just like isn't, that rigorous or whatever it is. Like,
and then I think there's the other side of people. It's like, back in the day, you got one Tonight Show where people were originally like, oh, who is that person? Then they get it. And they're like, oh my God, he's the best. Yeah. Did
totally.
you see that?
Right, exactly. So I do think that there are similarities.
Definitely. Yeah. There's similarities. Comedy is not different that you think going in. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I guess it's the closest, even that, but like it's not that close to it, but it's the closest to a meritocracy in entertainment.
Sure.
I guess.
Right, and it's still very much not.
And it's not, though.
Right.
It's not, but it's the closest.
Yeah, totally.
But even that is like, it's still very far off from being a meritocracy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still so many, like I see, oh God, I don't want to, we don't have to go into it. But but truly, it's just like, a kind of like I have a question. Were there ever like any like viral clips of like someone cross-examining a witness?
I don't.
Probably at this
like
point.
A crowd work clip.
I don't remember what we were saying from right before.
I had started a riff and then it cut off. But it was like
a
lawyer. It was a lawyer doing crowd work on the cross-examining a witness.
Right. And
so what do you do? Seriously, for the record, we need to know what you do. And are you two dating? At the time of the incident, were you two dating?
That is brilliant. And also,
or it's just him doing actual crowd work. Your Honor, may I approach the bench? So, what do you do for work?
What's your name? Of course it is. Looking at the jury, of course it is. I mean, I knew you were a Brad right when you walked onto the stand. We all
let me guess. Brad. You work in finance? Yeah.
You work in finance? I knew that. I read that on the deposition, but it was clear from looking at you.
And what did you like? Murder your whole family? Is that right?
Seriously, did you murder your whole family?
All right, it was worth it.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, the literal answer is I don't know because I wasn't a lawyer at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And nor was I ever a trial lawyer. I was like a corporate sit at your desk sending emails lawyer and then taught for most.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it was fine.
No?
I mean, like I wouldn't say it was for me.
Yeah.
Did you like the teaching then? Because that's more performative.
I did.
Yeah, that's fun.
I did. Yeah. And when I mean, because people sometimes ask like, oh, did you always know that you were funny or comic or whatever? And I knew that I was funny because I could get laughs in class, but I didn't care. And the only way I cared was like in a bad way, because when I was in my first year of teaching, I was 27 years old. Everybody else was like way older, right?
That's very young.
Super insecure. I felt so stupid. I'm like, they're calling me professor. I don't know a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I get out of class one day and one of my colleagues who's like, an old man basically was like, Liz, what are you doing in there? It sounds like a comedy club. And I was horrified because I thought that they were gonna not take me seriously. Yeah. And now I think like, I can't believe I wasn't recording those sets. Like, what was I saying? Because I remember like, I didn't care to get the laughs. So I was teaching huge lecture halls and getting like room wide laughs. So
like
about property.
The clips, Liz.
Yeah,
the
right?
clips.
What was I doing? So I think I remember we were talking before about like a kind of, journey, and maybe to your question, Tyler, about the conflict and where it kind of led me in comedy. But I think that it's never like I want the laughs, but also I'm just like, I'm trying to, again, like just distill something truthful
like be understood
into getting those laughs. Yeah. And I do wish I knew what I was saying in those rooms about literal property law that could have been that funny. And again, I mean, it's like the bar is low. Like I was funny for a law professor, right? Like they're ready to laugh in a way because it's law school. So I don't know. But
probably a better teacher too, because at least for me, the teachers that made us laugh, I could pay attention for longer.
Yeah.
If there was like a professor that was not being funny at all for the whole class, you slowly over time
fall asleep.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's true. And that is also true for me in my experience as a student. And also this past weekend, I was doing a show and a student of mine came and I hadn't seen her in like probably 10, 12 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It happens every now and then, but like it was a show in Connecticut. She lives in Connecticut. She came with her husband, and it was like at some point I'm pretty scattered like as a person in terms of like tangents and stuff like that. And on stage, when I really get going, I do a lot of like tangents and stuff. And at one point I knew she was in the audience. I had mentioned that up top in some way. And then at some point I'm like, this is exactly what I was like this is what my class was like. And then it turned out, was telling her husband at that moment, she's like, I was literally just saying that. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was like incredible. A nice, like, it was a great show. Like, I think, whatever. And So I think that there's always like a kernel of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
In whatever you're doing.
I was a first grade teacher.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I would kill. Oh my God. But it was a different kind of kill because you just like act like an idiot and they're just like, oh my God, this dude's hilarious.
Well, kind of, but that is something. I mean, that's like, because first graders can be a tough audience.
Yeah.
And because you got to commit to the act out, I think, because they're used
true.
to.
Yeah, you definitely.
You know what I mean? Like they're not going to laugh at anything. Like they can see through.
And the other teacher was like a 64-year-old woman. So
okay,
I will say they don't reward great writing. They're more act
the joke writing is just
it's a little bit hacky, but it gets the laugh.
Totally.
I also like the idea of someone asking you like, "What was your first set?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, it was corporate litigation 201." It's a great. I did 45.
Right. Yeah. Literal hours and a half. Right when I started.
Hours and a half.
Yeah.
Very valuable. Thank you for coming on. We have to be cognizant of your time.
I appreciate
This is Liz Glazer. Liz,
Thanks.
you have a special.
Yeah, it's an album.
Have been out when this comes out.
True. My album, A Very Particular Experience, is available on Spotify
right now.
Just as my ex-fiance's ex-boyfriend's music is. Basically, wherever you can get his songs is where you can get this album. I feel like if I was in records, like we only sell to artists. And then if his wife or any of the kids or their kids or significant others writes anything, we'll
it goes
sell
in
it.
the store.
Yeah.
You're like, it's different genres, but there's a lot of content overlap.
I think so. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Everyone
Tyler.
just got to
Thank
go
you,
check
Jamie.
that out immediately.
We do have to go. We have to cut the session short. Come back next week. We'll invoice you.
Yeah, we
Good.
actually have to go
Thank
to
you.
your ex's ex's
That's who pays.
concert. So, yeah. So we're
I'll
heading
be
out
there
to
too.
go there. Oh, great. All right.
It's not stalking.
Liz Glazer, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Jamie.